All right, let's jump right in. When I say sacred cow, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? For most of us, it's a purely religious symbol from India, right? Well, today we're going to peel back that surface layer and uncover something way more complex and, frankly, more sophisticated. We're talking about an ancient design for civilization itself.
So here's the big question that's going to drive our whole conversation. What if I told you that this reverence, it wasn't born out of some kind of blind faith? What if it was actually a deeply logical, time-tested blueprint for building a society that could actually survive? What if it's less about religion and more about a code for living?
And here's the key thing to get. The answer isn't just one simple thing. It's a whole system, one that was built up over thousands of years with these really distinct layers. And once you start to see these layers for what they are, the entire idea of the sacred cow starts to click in a completely new way. It just makes sense.
So, to really get this, we've got to shift our perspective. We have to stop seeing the cow as just an animal. Think of it more like a foundational institution. This was something that literally sustained the economy, the environment, and even the spiritual life of a whole civilization for thousands of years.
And this deep significance, it didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was built up, layer by layer, kind of like sedimentary rock. Each new layer reinforced the one before it, and together, they created this incredibly strong and lasting cultural and economic system.
Okay, so here's the plan. We're going to break down these 3 layers. First, we'll look at the original texts, the symbolic roots. Then, we'll get into the super practical economic side of things. And finally, we'll see how all that utility and practicality blossomed into a really profound ethical philosophy. So let's start at the very beginning, with the oldest texts. In the Rig Veda, the cow is given this specific name, Agna, and that literally translates to the one who is not to be killed. Right there, that's a powerful statement. It was the ultimate symbol of wealth, of nourishment, of prosperity. And get this, the word for cow, Gau, was also the word for earth, for light, and even for knowledge. So right from the get-go, this symbol was incredibly rich and complex.
But all that symbolic weight was built on an incredibly practical foundation. This is where we get to the civilizational layer. If you look at archaeological evidence from places like Harappa, you see that cattle were the absolute backbone of the economy, way before these texts were even written down. They were your tractor, your truck, everything. In a world with unpredictable rains, dairy wasn't just food, it was your life insurance policy. So killing a cow, that wasn't just about ending one animal's life, it was like taking a sledgehammer to your family's entire economic future.
Okay, and this is where things get really interesting. This is where that cold, hard economic logic starts to transform into a deep, ethical philosophy. Suddenly, the cow is linked with major figures like Krishna. It becomes the ultimate symbol of ahimsa, nonviolence. And why? Well, think about it. The cow came to be seen as a mother figure, Gau Mata, because she gives and gives, she provides nourishment without taking a life in return. And just like that, a very practical rule for survival gets encoded into the culture as a sacred duty, as dharma.
So this deep reverence, it wasn't just for the cow itself. Nope. It extended to absolutely everything the animal produced. What emerged was this, it was basically a complete, self-sustaining biosystem, perfectly optimized for human survival.
And this system actually has a name. It's called Panchagavya. It's a term that covers the 5 primary products you can get from a cow. And according to Ayurveda, the traditional system of medicine, these weren't just a random collection of folk remedies. Oh no. They were seen as a totally integrated system for both health and the environment. It was a framework designed to get the absolute maximum value out of this critical resource.
And what's fascinating is when you put the ancient wisdom side by side with modern science, you see some incredible overlaps. Milk, which Ayurveda called nourishing, well, science today confirms it's packed with protein and calcium. Curd was said to improve digestion, and now we know it's a great source of probiotics for our gut microbiome. Even cow dung, which was used as a disinfectant, turns out it has antimicrobial properties and makes for an amazing fertilizer. Now, for some things, like cow urine, the ancient texts are very specific about its use in controlled formulas, while modern science says, hey, the jury's still out on wider claims. But the point isn't whether every single claim is a home run. The real takeaway is the incredible internal logic of the system as a whole. So when you look at all this, it becomes crystal clear, right? This was never about just blind worship. This was a highly sophisticated system of optimization. It was about understanding and using every single part of your most critical asset, from food to fuel to medicine. Nothing was wasted.
And this is the moment when we need to pull the camera back, way back. Because the cow, as central as it is really just the first piece of a much, much larger puzzle. It's part of an entire philosophical framework, a blueprint really, for how to run a balanced and sustainable civilization.
This larger framework is sometimes called the 5 Gs. So you have Gau, the cow, which we've seen stands for sustainable living. Then you have Ganga, the river, which is all about our relationship with nature and our resources. You have the Gita, the text that provides the ethical compass. Then there's Gayatri, which is about developing your own inner consciousness. And finally, Guru, the teacher, who represents passing down wisdom. You see how they all fit together? It's a complete, holistic system for life.
And within this framework, there's a really subtle but incredibly profound shift in thinking. The earlier ideas were more focused on Deva, which you can think of as an external concept of God or divinity. But the later thinking, especially what you find in the Upanishads, it pivots. It shifts to Gayatri, which is all about illuminating your own intellect, your own consciousness. It's this powerful move away from external worship and toward internal realization.
Okay, so why are we talking about all this? Why does any of this ancient stuff matter today? Well, because if you can just strip away the old school language for a second, what you're left with is an operating system that is unbelievably relevant for the challenges we're facing right now.
And this is where it all comes together. Look at this. Gal, that's not just a cow, that's the core idea behind the circular economy and ESG. Ganga isn't just a river, it's about systems thinking and ecology. The Gita, that's the framework for ethical decision science. Gayatri, well, that's what we now call cognitive science and mindfulness. And Guru is the foundation for mentorship in creating learning organizations. You see, the language might be ancient, but the concepts, they are completely timeless and modern.
And this really just says it all, doesn't it? It's not about pillars to believe in, like a dogma. It's much more of a practical blueprint, a kind of life architecture for building a life and a society that is balanced, conscious, and sustainable.
And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with, as we're all searching for answers to our huge modern problems, things like climate change, mental health, social division. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredibly sophisticated, time-tested blueprints for living are we just ignoring? What other ancient wisdom is out there, waiting for us, if only we could learn how to translate its language?